Hey everybody, it's Mike, and I want to talk to you today about the borderline and their facade. So before I go any further, let me just make the standard disclaimer. I am not a mental health professional. I am not a counselor. I am not a psychologist. I am not a psychiatrist. I have no certification in mental health therapy whatsoever. Please do not take anything in these videos as a substitute for qualified mental health help. So, whoever you are, whatever your issue is, seek out the appropriate mental health provider to solve your problems. Any conclusions or actions that you take based on this is completely your responsibility. All right. Having said that, again, this channel is for non-borderlines, those who have been in or are currently in a romantic relationship with an untreated borderline. I stress the word untreated. I've come to hear and understand that borderlines, if they are in treatment, are perfectly capable of having relationships and seemingly very successful relationships. So please don't get your panties in a wad. I'm talking to a very specific audience. This channel is dedicated to the non-borderline, to help them understand the mental illness that they are trying to have a relationship with. And let me be clear. This isn't, in no way do I want to stigmatize. I'm actually, from my perspective, I think I'm actually helping to talk and defend borderlines. They have a mental illness. They're not bad people. They have a disadvantage, and it's tragic for everybody. Probably more so for the borderline than for the codependent, although that's debatable. All right, so today I want to talk about facades. And the reason this is to help you, those of you who are in relationships with borderlines, to understand that the person you think you're having a relationship with is probably not a real person. You are probably interfacing with a facade, and the facade is as easily discarded as it is for me to take my shirt off. And my shirt is no more me than their facade is them. That doesn't mean that that doesn't mean they're trying to lie to you. In fact, I'm going to make the argument that they're not trying to lie to you. They are trying to be what they think they need to be in order to be a functional person. They are seeking the same things you are. They want love and connection. And that's as far as most of us go, is that we can sense they really want the love and connection. We sense that they're in a lot of pain. We sense that something's really wrong and that they want us to help them. And so we operate from the delusion that there's just one missing ingredient here, and if we can just find it and just put it in there, then they'll be, oh, I'm okay now. Okay, here I am. I love you back. Life is good. And I want to help you understand that that's never going to happen with an untreated borderline. It's impossible. Any more than it's possible to expect somebody with one leg to run a marathon. They can't do it. It's not their fault. They can't do it. Borderlines have, as I understand it, there's, of course, there's a spectrum, and there's different types of borderlines, and some are worse than others, et cetera, et cetera. Some are better at other things than others, et cetera, et cetera. But the main thing that's important here is that borderlines, their main dysfunction is in relationships, and the more intimate the relationship, the more challenging their dysfunction becomes. So your thought that the more love I give them, the more intimacy I give them, the more healing they're getting, and it'll build up to a point someday where they'll be able to love me back. And I'm telling you that the intimacy is the very thing that causes their mental illness to spiral out of control. It's the one thing they want more than anything, but it's the one thing that will stimulate their dysfunction to act out against you, and you're going to be the one that's going to get hurt. They hurt themselves. We'll find that out in a second. But this is the crazy thing. The rules that you're functioning under do not work with them. And so it's really important that you understand this. Get out of the delusion that you're dealing with somebody who's on the same wavelength as you. They're in a whole different universe. Okay? All right. So I'm going to be reading from a comment. This is an individual who left some really wonderful information. Somebody who claims to be a borderline, and as I understand it, this person is in therapy, has been in therapy for a long time, and has a functional relationship, although with challenges. And I appreciate this person's honesty. If you do leave comments on my channel that the whole world can see, I'm assuming that you're willing for me to engage in a discussion with you. If not, don't leave a comment. If I do respond to your comments and you don't want me to, leave a comment. I can't guarantee I'll see it, but leave a comment saying, please don't use my comments. Easiest thing to do is just don't leave a comment if you don't want me to interact with you. So let's just get right into it. And this person has given me permission after having asked in a previous video. This person has then given me permission, so I'm going to continue because it's an amazing insight into the mind, so you can see in non-borderlines that what you're trying to achieve is impossible with an untreated borderline. Impossible. So stop banging your head against the wall. So this person says, I'm going to try and just get to the most salient parts here. The borderline often doesn't know that they are using a facade. So this is going to add to the craziness of it. So this is why they're not lying to you. Look, I can tell if somebody's lying to me. I'm very good at it. I was an actor for years, and I can tell when somebody's a good actor and when they're not. And this is why I probably would be able to, why I'm probably not a mark for narcissists, because I can tell when somebody's lying. I can tell when somebody is planning to deceive, when they've got some kind of an angle, because they're not very good actors. This is the thing about narcissists. They're really bad actors. So you got to have a special kind of codependence to buy into their shtick. As charming as they are, I can see through them. So that's why they don't come after me. They also, they tend to look for submissive people, and I'm not a submissive person. I tend to be the alpha male in the room, so I'm not a good mark for them. Borderlines, totally different deal. They're not trying to lie to you. So this person says they don't even know that they're using a facade. It is a facade. It's not the real person, because they don't have a real, as I've said in many other videos, they don't have a core identity. So there's nothing fake about it. There's nothing there. They put on a facade. That's who they are for that moment. It's not real. It is superficial, but it's not, at least in this case, and I think in many cases, it's not an artificial, false thing that they're choosing to put together in order to lie to you. Not saying they don't lie, that's a whole other thing. Facades. So the borderline often doesn't know that they are using a facade, which is a coping mechanism. Understand, I'll use my assistant here. You're an infant or a toddler, and you don't know who you are. There's all these adults in the room, and they have fully functioning selves, and they're talking about particle physics and all kinds of stuff that you can't even begin to comprehend. And I'm thinking, as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about the first way that my borderline ex introduced me to her community. She lived with a community. I won't get into that. I'm not going to say who she is or where, but she was part of a community, and she started this game night thing. And so, the community would get together and they would have a game night, play some board game. And she really enjoyed that. But I also know it was a facade. And I also know it was, a way for her to practice, and being, all of that stuff. And it was a way for her to connect with me and give me the impression that she was, whatever. But that's what I'm thinking about when I think about this facade, and I think about her now. What would happen is that she would be by herself in her room. When I'm imagining her being by herself in her room beforehand, and she is this, and that knows that she looks like all the other adults in the room. She knows that she is responsible and expected to be responsible for herself like all the other adults in the room. So she's going to put on adult clothes and an adult facade and try and connect. But to her, they're all adults and authority figures, and she's trying to connect. It's the best she knows how. And, there's nothing wrong with that. But as we'll find out, as we go through, that as honest and sincere as her intentions are, she's at a disadvantage. And when that falls apart, when the ineffective facade falls apart, that then the only thing they have left is their terror and their fear, because they're broken. Okay? All right, so let's keep going because this is so valuable, this information. If they don't use the facade, they fall apart, because without the facade, there is nothing, no personality or identity. This is coming from a borderline in recovery. I've been saying that all along. I was guessing. She's telling me that my guess was accurate. There is no foundation inside to build on. There is a hole inside, and whatever you put in there just disappears. Whether it's the partner putting love in there or the borderline trying to build a stable personality inside, doesn't matter. A borderline who does not practice coping skills from therapy regularly is unable to hold on to anything. Also, because borderlines forget a lot, especially when they are in an acting out borderline mindset and dissociate. In other words, when they're splitting on you, they forget what they're doing. Now, this is something that happens to a lot of people, by the way, not just borderlines, but listen, I've got my own issues, and people could say that I have borderline tendencies, and I certainly have had that in the past. But there have been times when I have felt as though I was being unduly attacked or something, or somebody had wronged me in some way. And I've gotten very angry. And then I get to this point where, it's going to sound like a borderline. This is why. I mean, look, the truth is that codependents, narcissists, empaths, and borderlines all suffer from the same core issue. It just expresses itself a little bit different, and each one of them has different abilities, and some have, are broken in different ways. But I can remember, many times when somebody has either, betrayed me or hurt me or disappointed me, or I got my feelings hurt accurately or inaccurately, and then being angry and saying to them, do you realize you did this and you did that, and that's how it affects me and how it did that, and you owe me an apology? And they will look me in the face and apologize, and I won't hear them. I'll keep going about what they did wrong, and unless there's somebody there to intervene, they'll go, they just apologized twice. Didn't you hear it? And I'll go, no, I don't remember that. So this is something that happens to a lot of people. It happens to the borderline too. So when they're, totally regressed in their state of, the fight or flight mode. I remember when I was a little kid also, I was the shortest kid in school, and I got picked on a lot. And I had an older brother that used to pick on me a lot. And when I was a little kid, the fighting would start, the pushing and the shoving, and I'd black out. And then I'd come to, and there'd be, blood on my hands and some little kid with a bloody nose on the ground. And I'd wake up breathing and like, whoa, what just happened? And I'd have to ask the kid, what just happened? They go, you know what happened? You punched me. Whatever it was. And I have no recollection of it. To this day, I have no recollection of it. So it's that fight or flight mode. When you get into that fight or flight mode, you don't remember it. So you guys can't take it personally when they do what they do, and then when they tell you they don't remember, a lot of the times they're telling you the truth. That's why it's a waste of time to be resentful at them. It's like trying to be resentful for a one-legged man who can't run a marathon. That's insane. All right. All right. So also because borderlines forget a lot, especially when they are in an acting out borderline mindset and dissociate. Let's see. I'm going to try and find out again. Try and find the most salient aspects here. Okay. Let's see where this takes us. I totally agree on your response to my words, get your partner in therapy. I was saying don't get your partner in therapy. It's only going to take if they want to. The best that you can do is get the hell out. Realize if things are toxic that they're not capable of giving you what they want. You're getting a very clear message from their behavior. Even if their words say one thing, their behaviors are telling you they don't want and or aren't capable of giving you what you want. So get honest about that and just get out. The kindest thing you can say to them is, I'm getting out of this relationship. It's toxic for me. I'm sorry if that's hurtful to you. I understand. But if you want me in your life, then I recommend that you go to qualified therapy with a psychologist who deals with borderline personality disorder. And if you're in that therapy for 9 months or a year and you contact me, then I will be happy to meet you at your therapist's office and discuss it. And then, of course, you and I both know the likelihood of that is almost nil, which tells you, that, but the bottom line is it doesn't matter, because without it, they won't be able to have a relationship, as we'll find out. It's impossible. That's my point. If they're untreated, it's impossible. So don't waste your time. And also, if what you really want to do is help them, then if what you want to do is help them, you have to put them in a state where you're not co-signing their dysfunction. Because if you co-sign their dysfunction, if you are the supply, as it were, then they have no reason to dig deep and do the hard thing, which is ask for help. So if you don't supply it, somebody else might, but that might be the catalyst. If they really do love you, that might be the catalyst for them to say, you know what, I don't want to lose this person. I'm going to go get help. And if they don't say that, then that gives you an understanding. You're in it more deeply than they are. And that's the delusion. And that's what I really want to help non-borderlines understand, is that you are also trapped in a delusion. You got to wake up. If you want to heal, you got to wake up. All right, so I totally agree with your response to my words, get your partner in therapy. I chose the wrong words here, and you're completely right. The borderline has to go into therapy because she wants to get better. Also, it is not your responsibility to get them into treatment. Also, after therapy, you're not there yet, meaning just because a borderline gets into therapy doesn't mean they're going to be fixed, which is another reason why you shouldn't be with them when they're just getting into therapy, because they're still going to keep using you as a crutch for their dysfunction, as opposed to learning to do the self-talk and the work inside themselves to deal with their inability to handle their feelings and projections and reactions. You're not helping. Your love doesn't help them. We're going to find out more. I think I already said that. They have a hole inside them. Let me see if I can find it. If I already said it, I think I already said it. Anyway, where did I see that? There is no foundation to build on. There is a hole inside, and whatever you put in there just disappears. You think you're putting love in there, and the love, it's just really empty, and it's going to take a while, and the love will build up, and then when it builds up to a point, they'll love you back. This is coming from a borderline who says that's not what happens. No matter what you put in there, it disappears. It's never enough. That's why they're obsessive. That's why, with mine, I know that she wasn't your typical addict, even though she was, currently going through taking medication for heroin addiction. She wasn't an addict like a drug addict or an alcoholic. I could tell because she didn't respond in all of those normal ways. I could tell something else was up. That's why they do that. That's why if they have intense impulsive behavior like, sexual addiction or whatever else, that's why. It's because whatever you put in there just disappears. There's nothing there. Your love disappears the moment you give it to them. I've shared the one experience that really came out to me after I spent hours with my borderline ex who had gone through sexual abuse, and that cropped up during a sexual experience, and I spent hours taking care of her, even tears streaming down my face, trying to heal her. And then looking back on it now, the little baby started to smile because Daddy was looking at her and giving her all the love. And then she was okay. And then she said, "Okay, let's go to the store." And I'm like, "Hang on, I'm really drained here. I need you to give back to me." She goes, "I'm not gonna drop everything just for you." Dead serious. Because, like this person is saying, all the love you put into them it disappears. I just happened to the only thing that really happened. Well, I don't know what really happened, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure that what did happen is that she split back the other way. I gave her enough happiness and dangled the key in front of her and gave her love and attention, and she flipped back, and I was now her favorite person again. That's all that happened. It wasn't that I had healed anything or made any real headway. It's just the borderline, the little girl was now laughing and happy and wanted to play, and she didn't want to stop playing just because I had a need. And again, like what this person says, they don't even remember. So she probably didn't even remember what was just happening. Let's see. Moving on. I'm going to try to look for this salient thing here. So she goes on to talk about how just because you're in therapy, you're not there yet. And she says that basically that she needs to stay in therapy, otherwise she'll relapse. So, while I've got on the subject, I would also recommend borderlines look into 12-step groups because they're also codependents. And the reason why that's helpful is because 12-step groups teach you how to, teach you how to operate with contrary action. It's a really, really great tool. It's that you identify the feelings underneath your impulsive actions. Codependents are impulsive. You also have impulse control problems. You pick up the phone. What is she doing? Where is she going? Why are you there? Oh my God, you're in pain. I have to fix you. She split on me, but I feel like it's my fault. What is she doing right now? I'm going to go check her online. That's all impulse. An inability to control your impulses. That's your fault. Borderlines also have impulse control, and if they can find a way to learn how to take contrary action, which is identify the impulse, and when the feeling comes up that, oh my God, this person is out to destroy me, to go, oh, I'm in it right now, I do the exact opposite. And I don't know what that is for them, but that'll probably be helpful, I would imagine, and I've heard from a mental health professional who said that 12-step work is also very good for borderlines who are in recovery. So I'm trying to find the salient points so that you can understand non-borderlines that, what is really going on with this facade. And this facade is to fill this empty black hole that can never be filled in a normal way. All right, so she says, I think it's a she. This person's making the point that they have to stay in recovery and that their splitting is hurtful to them. It's as destructive to them as it is to you. Talking about when this person relapses, all hell breaks loose because it's like an alcoholic saying, I can drink a beer now, no problem. And again, I'm blind to myself and get caught in another facade, thinking that I finally found myself. That's why when they come back and they give you all the promises, they mean it. They think they found it, it's going to be okay. They won't, now they know. I saw that firsthand. I believed it, and it led to the worst betrayal and pain of my existence in, one isolated setting. I get caught in another facade thinking that I finally found myself and roll right back into the borderline mindset, totally disconnected and hurting myself and everyone around me. I speak from personal experience here. When I relapse again, I'm obsessive and destructive until something really intense happens, like a breakup, and I wake up from my delusions in a split second. Then my whole world falls apart because I realize what I've done, that I'm still confused about who I am and about the world. Then I'll see the damage I've caused to the people I care about and just want to die because I can't handle the guilt and shame. At the same time, I can split on the people I met while being in the facade. I will just go insane again because I'm splitting on myself. Did you know borderlines split on themselves too? It's like your whole perception of the world, including yourself, falls apart and there is nothing to hold on to. The ground underneath your feet just disappears and you're free falling and you don't know what is real and what is not. Everything and everyone becomes dangerous, including yourself, whatever yourself means. And yes, I totally agree about the micro splits. This really does happen. So I appreciate that this person shared that. Again, that was my intuition based on what I saw. So anyway. All right, so let's see here. Talk about going back into therapy. So talking more about, I guess, going back and forth. This is important to say. All right, this is this person's words, not mine. Talking about all the people in their life, but they all know that I have a mental disability and that at times I'm completely insane. This person's words, not mine. Because they know me for so long, my friends see the changes. It probably makes them feel powerless because they can't do anything for me. There is no reasoning with someone who has broken off with reality. I'm trying to tell you, borderline personality disorder is a mental illness, which means my definition of mental illness is that there is part of them at times that is completely divorced from reality, not warped, not misunderstood, not overreacting. Overreacting, you can say, listen, I think you're overreacting here, and then you can talk the person down. But if somebody's in a completely different universe, there's nothing you're going to say. You can't fix them, you can't help them. When I think I've found myself while I'm actually in the facade, it can look like I'm hypomanic, charismatic, energetic, happy, intense, but there is nothing on the inside. I'm completely denying, forgetting the fact that I have borderline or that I am confused, etc. I'm unable to feel a connection, unable to feel love or receive love, because there is nothing inside me to connect with. I start to believe my own delusions, and it might seem like I'm lying, but in that moment, it is my reality. I can seem narcissistic and sociopathic when I'm caught in my own mental disorder. This makes me sad, but it's true. So I appreciate that. What's important here, like when I use the words narcissistic and sociopathic, I'm talking about the result. Narcissists, they're totally into themselves and they don't have any feelings for anybody else. So the end result of their behavior is very cruel and calculated and cold and selfish. borderlines can be narcissistic. Doesn't mean they are narcissists. It means they can act that way, not realizing it. They're going to have the same effect. Sociopathic, same thing. Sociopath has no empathy for anybody else. It doesn't even care what happens to them or what they're feeling. So if they're sociopathic, not sociopaths, then the result of their behaviors be the same. You don't give a crap about me. There was a couple times early on where I can't remember what was said. Micro splittings were starting to happen, and I said something along the lines of, "Wow, you really don't care about other people's feelings." And she responded strongly. I could tell she wasn't responding like she was hurt. She was responding like, "No, I do care. No, of course I understand that that's going to hurt somebody." I could feel it was all intellectual. That on an emotional level, she wasn't like really understanding. Because here's the thing, if you really truly understand, you don't do it. You don't do it if you truly understand. And if we're talking about a mental illness that forces somebody to break from any ability to understand, then they're going to be in that moment sociopathic. And bottom line for you, this isn't an attack, the bottom line for you, the partner, is that is going to happen to you. The delusion that you can get them to see, especially if they're untreated, to get them to see what they're doing and why it hurts, even if they give you an intellectual assessment of, yes, that's right, it's not going to hold. You're talking to a facade. The facade is paper thin. A strong breeze comes by and the facade is broken and gone. And that's what you really need to understand, to get over the delusion that you're dealing with somebody who has a full developed sense of self and can dig back into their sense of self and push off from it. Like, when you're in a pool and you're at the bottom of the pool, you get to the bottom and you push off, you can get to the surface. I'm a surfer, so if you're surfing in deep water and big waves and you get held down and you can't feel the bottom underneath you, think about that, maybe this is a good metaphor. You get tossed around and you can't even tell which way is up, so you don't know which way to swim. But if you hit the bottom, then you know where the bottom is and you can push up off the bottom. So for them, the bottom is their identity, their self. If they don't have that, they're being held under by a wave. A wave is all, water is always symbolic of emotions and instincts. When you get over, that's why dreams of drowning means you're overwhelmed by your emotions and your instincts. And so borderlines drown, or they're drowning all the time, and they got nothing to push off from. So you're under this delusion that they can push off from themselves. Why don't you just get it together? Why can't you just do this? Because there's nothing to push off from. They're broken. So get over the delusion that your love will fix them. Let's see. During periods when I'm delusional here can be times when I have the feeling inside of me that what I'm doing isn't right, but I still can't stop myself. After the mental split on myself, it can look like I'm psychotic. I have been acting out for some time, for example, while at the same time I was crying and saying sorry because I didn't want to do the things I did, but I just couldn't stop. And I wanted to say that. Please see that I don't want to do this to you, and I'm so sorry that I'm hurting you or scaring you. I've been there. I can remember a couple of times. When the last time she did that to me, I could feel that. So I'm glad that you said that, because I thought maybe that was just my denial. But that's the sad part, because if you can feel that, you empaths out there, if you can feel that, then it's going to give you the delusion that if you just keep going, that she'll turn around. But this person is saying that part of them can sense that what they're doing is damaging, and they just can't stop because it's the only thing that gives them any relief from the intense fear. They're out of control. Do you understand? They don't have any control over this thing. And whatever control they do have is temporary. I saw that too. When it gets bad enough, they will split on you and they will devalue you, and there's nothing you can do to prevent that. Everything you do to try and prevent that is only going to make it worse when it does happen. It's why you need to let them get help on their own. And if they don't, that's their choice. You're not responsible for that. I'm so glad that I'm not in that mindset right now. It's hell for everyone. This is my last episode. Big one was 1.5 years ago. So I'm getting, this person's not asking for my advice, but I get the sense that they're in and out of therapy, and I would recommend staying in it all the time. 12-step groups are great. I really think that, and I've heard this from another professional who says that if a borderline is able to get into the state of awareness through therapy, that 12-step groups can actually help them. So, NA or AA, or if there's any kind of chemical or addiction or Sex Anonymous or whatever, something that you've done, if you can go and stay in that, you can learn and heal through having impulse control, doing contrary action. So I'll tell you that the 3-step approach that works for codependence is, I think, will also work for borderlines. It won't hurt them. Therapy, 12-step group, and a spiritual practice. I think the combination of those three is there's some magic in there. That's what's given me a state of being in a recovered state that I'm in right now. All right. And this is really important. Now, this is coming from somebody who has been in therapy and has achieved states of recovery in their borderline. This is coming from them. So imagine this is even more true with your borderline. And yes, I do still see my partner as a parent. My partner and I are aware of it. I don't know how to be in a relationship in another way, although I've tried. If I try to be different, then it feels unnatural and it's not something I can hold on to. It might even cause me to create another facade in which I seem like I'm an adult emotionally. But I know where that will lead, so I just try to accept my disabilities and work with what I have. That is beautiful. I love that. Now, if I'm in a relationship with anybody, if that attitude is something that they can have, if they know, this is consciousness. Being conscious is not a state of perfection. Being conscious is having an ability to categorize, I got this, I got this, I got this, and this is just who I am. I only have one leg, I can't run a marathon. But if you put me in a wheelchair, or if you give me, one of these leg prosthetics, I can take a walk with you. So then you go, oh, well, then I'll interface with you at the place you can. And when you have the awareness and there's a big hill and you have to climb up a bunch of steps or whatever, you're like, I can't do it. I'm sorry, I only have one leg. I can't do it. That's consciousness. Insanity is like, yeah, I can climb that. And the only thing that's happening is that you're hanging onto somebody's belt as they're pulling you up and you're both falling down the cliff. So if, I've said this before, if I'm in a relationship with a woman and she can look me in the face and say, I'm feeling really murderous towards you right now, and I don't know if it's coming from me or from you, or you said this and it made me feel this way, I will hug that person and pull out a wedding ring and say, will you marry me? Because I know that when they're at their worst, they, instead of attacking me, they will be honest with their feelings and still stay. And then work through the problems. My borderline ex created a really intricate facade of doing that, which is part of the reason why I allowed myself to be seduced into it, because she knew how to talk to me. So she knew how to say all that, but it was all a facade. And I've never experienced anything like that before. Anyway, so that's where I want to stop. So do you get it, guys? The most salient thing that was said here, which I want to repeat, is the borderline doesn't often know they are using a facade, which is a coping mechanism. If they don't use this facade, they fall apart. That's what I was trying to do. This is because what I do, just in general, is let's get to the real you. I'll get to the real me. Let's get to the real you. I was actually taking that, my partner's, again, if you were using the metaphor of a one-legged person, I was trying to grab on to their crutches and um, their fake leg and pull it off of them. And so, of course, she'd flip out. Well, when she's wearing it, she put pants over it and says, "Look, I got two legs." The borderline often doesn't know that they're using a facade, which is a coping mechanism. If they don't use this facade, they fall apart. Because without the facade, there is nothing, no personality or identity. There is no foundation inside to build on. There is a hole inside, and whatever you put in there just disappears. Whether it's the partners putting love in there or the borderline trying to build a stable personality inside, it doesn't matter. A borderline who does not practice coping skills from therapy regularly is unable to hold on to anything. Okay? So if you're in a relationship, it's time to get aware, and if you need to, get out. I know that not everybody can do that if they have kids and other extenuating circumstances. I understand. But yeah, your love's not going to fix them. All right. So that's it. I'm beating a dead horse now. So I'll come back with some more videos about the delusion and denial and insanity that is the codependent. All right. Talk to you guys soon.